The objective today is solving one-step and two-step equations. An equation is a mathematical expression that involves an equal sign. An equation has a left side, and that left side is from the equal sign. So if you draw a line through that equal sign, that will be the left side of the equation, x minus 2, and the right side of the equation, we have a 10. So the purpose here is what number can we substitute in that variable x to make the left side equals to 10, that is the right side. So if you think about it, let's think about what number we can substitute in x and then subtract 2 to get that 10. Well, that one is easy. X can be equal to 12, right? Because if we substitute here in our variable x a 12, 12 minus 2 equals 10. So x is equal to 12. What about this one? I'll give you a few seconds to think what is the value of x. Remember, we have our left side, that is 3 plus x, and that left side needs to be equal to the right side, that is 8. So, using mental math, this one is also pretty easy. 3 plus 5 equals that 8. So we can say that x equals 5. But how can we get these solutions mathematically? When we solve a variable in an equation, let's do one step first. We need to isolate the variable using inverse operations. Isolate means leave the variable by itself in one side of the equation. So let's try some examples to understand how to isolate here the variable. Let's solve for x in the following equations. So we have in the left side, in the first example, x minus 9 equals 4. So I am going to separate my equation left and right. So I need to isolate x. Isolate means leave x by itself in the left side of my equation. Right now, it's not by itself. It has a 9 that is subtracted, right? So, to get rid of that 9, we need to use inverse operations so we can eliminate that minus 9 or cancel it. So, the inverse operation of subtraction will be addition. So, if I add 9 here, these two numbers are opposites. Negative 9 plus 9, that will be 0, so I can eliminate that 9. But remember that an equation must be balanced. Whatever operation you perform to the left side, you also need to do it to the right side to keep the balance. So if I added 9 to the left side, I need to do the same thing to the right side. So, in the left side, the only thing left is my x. Don't forget your equal sign. And in the right side, now you have 4 plus 9, that is 13. So, x equals 13. An easy way to check your answer is to substitute this value quickly here in the original equation, and you must get that 4. So, if you substitute 13 minus 9, do you get 4? Yes. So, that is my correct answer. What about example B? Here we have 4x equals 36. So, I am going to divide my equation left and right. Now, 4x, remember that means 4 times x. So, we need to isolate x. Right now, it's not by itself. It has a 4 multiplied. So, the operation is multiplication. So, the inverse operation of multiplication is division. If we divide by that same number 4, these two will simplify to 1x. And remember, remember that we don't need to write that 1 in front of the x, so that's the goal of solving equation. Just leave 1x by the left side. So 4 divided by 4, that will give me my x, or 1x. But remember that you need to do the exact same thing in the right side to keep the balance. So if I divided by 4, I also need to divide 36 by 4. So 36 divided by 4, that equals 9, and I'm done. Check quickly, substitute your x in the original equation. 4 times 9 equals 36, yes. So my answer is correct. What about this one? You can also have those integers, the negatives and the positives. So you need to apply carefully the rules of adding and subtracting integers. If you want to practice that objective about adding or subtracting the negatives and the positives, I also have a video here. I am going to write the link here in the description. If you want to go and check it out before this video to do some practice, you can do that and then come back to this video. So I divide my equation left and right. In the left side, I have my variable. I need to isolate that variable. I have x plus 5. To get rid of that 5, I need to do the inverse operation. That will be minus 5. That will cancel those 5's or make them 0. But to balance, don't forget that you need to do the same thing on the other side. So in the left side, the only thing left is my variable x equals, and then you perform the operation negative 8 minus 5. So you're adding two negatives. The answer is negative 13. A quick check. Substitute negative 13. Negative 13 plus 5 will be negative 8. What about example D? I have my left side, my right side, x divided by 5. Remember that this fraction bar means division, so that 5 is dividing my x. I need to get rid of it, so the inverse operation of division will be multiplication. If I multiply by that same number 5, these two simplify to 1x, and that's the purpose. I want to leave that x by itself in the left side, right? 1x, but remember you don't need to write that 1. So whatever you do to that side, don't forget to do it in the other side. So I also need to multiply 30 times 5, that it's equal to 150. So check quickly. If you substitute your variable in the original equation, 150 divided by 5 is equal to 30. Now let's solve equations in 2 steps. If you observe this equation, 2x minus 3 equals 7, and we apply the same rule, we need to divide the equation left and right and then isolate the variable. We have two numbers that we need to get rid of in this left side. So this 2 is multiplying my x, and then this 3 is subtracted from the term 2x. So we have multiplication and subtraction. If you remember the order of operations, PEMDAS, we need to apply order of operations but inversely. So we need to do the inverse of the order of operations. If you want to go and practice order of operations, I also have a video. I am going to leave the link here in the description if you want to go and check it out. So to isolate x in this side, we need to start with subtraction because we're doing the inverse of the order of operations. So how do I get rid of that 3? Doing the inverse, that will be plus 3. That will convert this to 0 because those are opposites. But don't forget the balance of the equation. So whatever you do to the left side, don't forget to also do it to the right side. So I'm adding 3, I need to add 3 in the right side. In the left side, this is gone because it's 0, so now you have 2x. And in the other side, you have 7 plus 3, 10. Okay, now I need to get rid of that 2. Remember that this 2 is multiplying your x. So the inverse operation of multiplication will be division. So I need to divide by that same number. So this simplifies to 1x because that's what we want. X equals a number. So this is x or 1x. Don't forget the balance, so I need to do the same operation in the other side. So if I divide it by 2, I divide 10 by 2. That will be 5. So x equals 5. If you want to do a quick check, you substitute in the original equation 2 times 5, that's 10. 10 minus 3 is that 7, so I check quickly, my answer is correct. What about this one? Let's show all the steps. We divide our equation left and right. The variable is in the left side. I have adding 16 and I have that 3 multiplying my x. So we are doing the inverse of the order of operations. So I need to get rid of the 16 first. So I need to subtract 16 to get rid of it. But don't forget the balance. I need to do the same thing on the other side. So in the left side, I have my 3x. And in the other side, be careful with the rules of adding negatives and positives. Here we have the addition of two negatives. Negative 2 plus negative 16, that will be negative 18. Then I need to get rid of that 3. That 3 is multiplying my x. So the inverse operation will be division by that same number to simplify this to 1x. That's what we want. And then don't forget the balance. I need to do the same in the other side. So I need to divide that negative 18 by 3. Negative 18 divided by 3, that's negative 6. That will be my x. Let's try this example. I have my equation left and right. So here we have x divided by 2 minus 1 equals 3. So inverse of the order of operations, we need to get rid of that 1 first, that is subtracting. So the inverse operation will be adding. That will cancel that out. Don't forget the balance. So I do the same thing in the other side. So I have x over 2, or x divided by 2 equals 4. Now I need to get rid of that 2. That is dividing my x. So the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So I multiply that whole term by 2 to simplify these 2 to my 1x. Don't forget the balance. If I multiply by 2, I also need to multiply the other side by 2. So x equals 8. Be careful when your coefficient is negative. The coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So it is a common mistake when the coefficient is negative. So let's solve it so you can see what I'm talking about. So I divide my equation left and right. I get rid of that negative 5 or minus 5 first because I'm following the inverse of order of operations. So I will add a 5 to get rid of it. Don't forget your balance. So I do the same thing in the other side. So in the left side, I have negative 6x equals 24. Now, this negative 6 is multiplying your x. So a very common mistake is that some of us will see this negative number and immediately will think of a plus 6, right? But remember that the inverse operation is not subtraction. The inverse operation here is multiplication. So that is a very common mistake when you have a negative coefficient. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, so we need to divide by the same number, and the same number is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is that 1x that we want. This will simplify to 1x. So whatever you do to the other side, don't forget to do it to the right side. So we need to divide by negative 6 that 24. So this is just negative 4. So be careful when you have those negative coefficients. Okay, now is your turn. You have these 5 equations to solve. Practice using the steps. Don't forget inverse operations. You can pause the video now. And at the end of the video, I have the solution so you can go and check. Don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe. Follow me on my social media, Instagram and Twitter at NumeritosTv. I am getting a lot of objectives now, so if you're interested in one, don't forget to send me your suggestions so your video can happen next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.